Hey everyone, welcome to the Yoga in Black podcast. If you're not new, however, welcome back. I'm Tierney, your host, and this show is all about the experiences of Black yoga and wellness professionals. Each episode, I'm joined with a new guest, and we'll just have a conversation between two peers about our experiences within the yoga and wellness industries, and also highlight where you can find their classes. At the forefront, this show is all about letting you know that Black folks are out here in this wellness industry doing amazing things that you can experience. So with that said, grab your favorite beverage. You know I got mine in the favorite mug. And let's have a chat. This is your friendly reminder that all episodes of this podcast are pre-recorded and some topics or events discussed may be outdated. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to the Yoga in Black podcast, everyone. My name is Tierney, your host, and this week I am joined with another fabulous yoga instructor by the name of Leah Saliter. Leah, take it away. Who are you? Where you're from? What you do? Tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently living in stolen Piscataway land, now known as Columbia, Maryland. I am a yoga teacher. I'm a death doula. I'm a content creator. You name it, I've done it, and I love doing it. I'm so happy and excited to be here. I guess I should just dive right in. I own my own healing practice called Unity and Healing, where we bring low or free, low cost healing modalities to folks in the DMV area. So I'm all about the healing. I'm all about recovering from trauma. And yeah, I'm just so excited to be here today.
Okay, you piqued my interest the second you said death doula. Tell me everything about that. Like, don't leave anything off the table. Lay it all on there. I have to know.
I think that before I knew what a death doula was, I was already deeply seated into that work. From like a very young age, like around 3 or 5, I experienced my first death. My mom had a stillbirth, and I was the last person to hold the baby before they cremated him, and we buried him and whatnot. And I remember like holding this not living baby in my arms and being like, what are we supposed to do now? Like, are we supposed to pray? Like, are we supposed to, like, what do we do? And my parents just didn't have the answers for me. And so from then on, I kind of became obsessed with death and just like trying to understand why we die and where we go when we die. And it actually caused a lot of tension in my very Christian conservative household because I just was not willing to accept the answers that were being given to me. My second experience with death was with my aunt who was dying of HIV and AIDS. She chose to die at home, which I found so fascinating as a child because, you usually go to hospitals where people are dying, and she wanted to be comfortable in her bed, watching the shows that she wanted to watch as she passed. And that just, for me, I was like, wow, like you can make these decisions for yourself. Like death doesn't have to be this like, well, and it can be this grief and this sadness, but she was like, I want to eat the food that I want to eat. I want to do whatever I want to do because it's my life and it's my life ending. She had the dress. She had this beautiful red dress, this hoochie mama dress that she wanted to be buried. I mean, it was hoochie mama, and they were upset and did not bury her in the dress. They didn't bury her in the dress that she asked, but baby, she was gonna look slamming. That's how she wanted to be. And then I think the death that I experienced that really affected me was when my grandmother, my mom's mom, passed, and we spent the entire 24 hours with her as she transitioned they brought her to the hospital because I think her heart had stopped, and then they restarted it even though she had do not resuscitate. And so we were in the hospital for 24 hours with her. And before the last thing she said when she woke up in like the middle of the day, she woke up and the doctor's like, do you recognize anyone here? And she's looking around the room. My mom is there. My cousins are there. She's looking around. She's like, no. And then she looks at me and she's like, that's Leah. That's my baby Leah. She knows everything. And then she didn't say anything else, and she passed like about 4 hours later. And what was so beautiful about her passing is we played all of her favorite songs in the last hour or so that she transitioned. We held her hands. We just loved on her, and she died with a smile on her face. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want. Like, I want people to transition with dignity and listen to the songs they want to listen to and be buried in that fucking hoochie mama dress. Like, let her be buried in it, baby. Let her do it. Like, it's our lives, and we should be allowed to do the things that we want to do.
Yes.
And so then years later, I stumbled upon the term death doula, and I was like, that's it. So I got my certification last year, and I did some volunteer work at a hospice. I haven't done any transitions yet, but I'm just really looking forward to being a part of someone's journey like that, because death has I've been fascinated by it, just so fascinated. And now I can do the things that I'm being called to do with that.
That is awesome. There was definitely a calling there for you with your grandma, recognizing you being there to help her through that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was hard for my mom because she was like, oh, she recognizes you, but she doesn't. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, but now that I'm like, when you have an attachment to someone, that's just the attachment, and that's it. But yeah, death has always been a part of my life, and I'm not backing down, and I'm excited for this being part of my journey and incorporating my yoga and my spirituality into that death doula work that I'm doing.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, congratulations on getting the certification and all that stuff and embarking on this new journey. Man, I think my fascination has more so been in ponderings of what comes next. It's like, yeah, death is definitely inevitable. We all are going to make it to that point. But then I'm always like, but what happens after that? What am I going to be? Where am I going to go? Like, will I come back as another person? Will I be a tree? Could I be somebody's dog? Like, all of those questions. Or am I just going to hang out in some lounge somewhere waiting for my next time to come? Like, when that movie Soul came out, oh my God, that had me just like, see, this is what I was thinking of in the first place of how this all goes. It's like, once we transition out of this one, we get to figure out when our next contract is.
Yeah. And what I love about that is like the different contracts, like, because I believe in ancestors. Like, I know my ancestors, my grandma, I know my brothers, all of them are over there by my altar. And I know that they're here, and I know that they're watching, but I'm like, man, like, did they choose to become an ancestor? Am I going to choose to become an ancestor, or while I want to come back? Like, have I done everything in this bloodline that I set out to do? Like, so
yes.
For me, it's less of what comes next and more of ending this part of life in a way that we can feel pride and we can feel joy and feel all the emotions that come forth when someone is transitioning.
That's awesome. Oh man, that is so cool. And I didn't realize that was a thing that was available to people. And now that I know, I'm definitely utilizing, because I will fully admit that death is hard for me. Even though I know it's inevitable, I don't do well with sudden changes, and Yeah, so that's a very sudden change. Even if somebody's been sick for a while, it's still that they're still here though. You know,
Right.
for me, it's like once they're not here anymore, it's like, no. And I need all the help I can get. Oh my goodness. But and even that when it's my time, I want some of those same things that your aunt did, you know, to just be comfortable in my own home, eating the food that I want, wearing the clothes that I want. And if y'all don't have a yoga class instead of a funeral for me with my urn there, then we will have a problem in this afterlife.
No, and I think that that's our birthright. Like, because we know that
Yes.
death is coming and we know that it's inevitable, we should be allowed to say, I want to be at home. I want to be able to
Mhm.
take medicinal medications to help me adjust as I go through this. Like, I should be able to I want people to do, like, I want people to come do breath work with me while I'm transitioning. I want to meditate. I want to lucid dream while you know what I'm saying? Like, I want it all. And I should be allowed to have it all because it's my transition. And I think that that's
Yep.
the beautiful thing about the death doula, other than not saying that the medical folks, have no place. They absolutely do. But
Yeah.
while they're worried about the medical things, as the death doula, you're there worried about the spirituality, worried about
Hmm.
people's rights, saying the right pronouns, not using dead names, doing the things that people
Yes.
deserve, that they just deserve this because this transition is difficult. Just as when we go through birth, the birthing parent like needs all of the support that they can get. I think that it's the
Yes.
same way through death. Like, they should get every single thing that they want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like it just makes perfect sense to have a doula for both stages, beginning and end.
Yes,
Like, why
absolutely.
not? These are really tough transitions to go through. You should have someone there to support you, back you up, hold your boundaries in place, honor the things that you want, all of the above. I
And leave
love
space for
that.
that grief. Yeah. Leave space for that grief and let people
Yes.
cry. Like, let people cry and sob and throw
Oh,
themselves all over the place. Um,
yes.
yes.
Ah, man, that is awesome. So, in the area that you were in, how many, is there a community of death doulas around?
There are a couple of communities. Right now, I'm kind of I don't want to say I'm solo because I am a part of a community where I got my certification, but
Yeah.
it's a different learning curve because you reach out to funeral homes, you reach out to hospice places, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll use your services for free," and like, but we don't want this type of thing. Like, when I did my hospice training, they were like, "We don't want any type of spirituality. Like, just don't." And I'm like, "Well, I
What if
understand
that's what the
someone."
person wants?
Exactly. If the person wants to talk about spirituality, if the person wants to breathe and they want to do yoga, if they want to do those things, it should be allowed to. But because
Yeah.
that those things are still seen as woo to some medical professionals, they're just like, no, we don't
Yeah.
want any of that at all. When it could be really helpful and healing to folks.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. I mean, I totally expect that to happen, but it's still, as soon as you hear that it's true, it's like, damn. Like,
Yeah,
come
it's
on, y'all.
unfortunate.
It's 2023. Let's get with it. Let's
Yeah,
get with
I
it.
mean, everyone can benefit from this stuff. Like, every single person can benefit from this. Like, but it's accepting the boundaries that are around. And so as I continue to grow and I don't really need to reach out to these organizations, I can just do me. And so that's why I've just
Yeah.
been waiting for opportunity to just do me, because I'm not willing to be stifled or silenced or misconstrued. Like, nah, I'm showing up as me authentically. You can swallow it
Yes.
or you cannot. That just is what it is.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So, though you had the interest in death at an early age, when did yoga's interest become part of you?
So it's
Did that
very
say that
funny.
right? I didn't, but anyway.
I just think you came across correctly. You came across.
Thank you.
So it's actually funny because the first time I did yoga, I hated it. I was in high school and I did theater. I did theater in high school, and one year our theater teacher was like, "We're gonna do yoga on Thursdays," and she had an art teacher come in, and this man taught the most boring yoga classes I've ever taken. Like, we would just do sun salutations. We would be hanging out in downward dog for like 3 minutes. Like, it was boring to the point that she did it for one semester and then never did it again.
Smart.
And my friend and I remember, I have this memory of my friend and I, we would be in downward dog and we would look at each other and we would start twerking and we would start just wiggle and just being so silly because we hated it. It was the worst hour. And so that's my first experience with yoga. And if I could go back in time and tell my past self, like 15-year-old self, like, Leah, you're going to be a yoga teacher one day, I would be like, girl, you want to teach this boring shit? Like, I don't want to do that. So when I went to college, I was really into like strength training and CrossFit and running. I used to run between classes. And this HIIT class I took, the teacher would always be like, everyone needs to do this class and then come to my yoga class after this. So I started going to her yoga classes where we were just doing power yoga. Just every 3 times a week we were doing power yoga. And I loved it. And I loved it so much because I'm like, oh, I'm so strong. I'm so bad. Like, I'm badass. I can do all these poses. And then my last yoga class with her, she said, I'm opening up an advanced yoga class and only these people that I point out can come to my yoga because the rest of y'all are not good at yoga. And she didn't choose me, even though I had been going to her class for 2 years consistently. And I never went back to her class because it hurt my feelings so deeply that I couldn't do quote unquote advanced yoga. But baby, I was doing it.
And my face is not hiding much of anything right now.
It's not.
What the fuck?
I know. And now as a yoga teacher, I'm like, oh my God, how could she have done that? Like, how could you call out the people that you want in your class when you have full fucking classes of college students who need this? And I didn't go back.
Good. Because what the hell? Like, who do you think what authority do you have to classify something as advanced and then consider only these people able to participate? Right.
And your listeners can't see me. I'm fat. I'm plus size. I have been my whole life, and that was part. That I felt like that was part of the reason that she didn't want me in that class, because she saw me as a fat person who couldn't do certain poses, like just stupid shit like that. And so yoga did not come back into my life until 2020. And my partner and I were looking for just some way to move our bodies. And we went to this class with this Black yoga instructor. And I will never forget him as long as I live. And he came into class, and for the first 10 minutes, he just talked. And he was like, life is shitty. Like, life sucks right now. Like, what are we doing? He's like, you got to thank yourself for showing up. You got to acknowledge that the things that you do matter. Like, and I was just fascinated. And then I remember laying in Shavasana. And for the first time in my life, my mind was quiet. And I could feel in my body. And I just felt bliss. And I was like, oh my, where has this been? This is what I want. And I haven't stopped doing yoga ever since. And just as a person that has like trauma, and I have CPTSD and experienced just a lot of childhood trauma that changed my brain and made me dissociate from my mind from my body. It was just a like a mind-blowing experience. I was like, you can feel like this is how neurotypical people feel. Like y'all's brains aren't racing. Like I was like, wow. And then the pandemic hit. And I couldn't take his classes anymore. And I was like, I can't stop. So I went and got my teacher training. And yeah, it's been uphill ever since. It's so funny to think about the first time I took yoga, I hated it. And now that I'm understanding yoga and I'm like deeper in, I'm in no way an expert. I don't ever want to say that. But now that I'm deeper in there, I'm just like, this is supposed to change lives. And we're using it, well, not we, but some people are using it as a physical competition to see how strong people can be and how twisty and bendy. And this is meant to change lives and heal trauma and heal us from the suffering that is all around us. It's just wild.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and ask, can you shout out the instructor that you had that changed the game for you?
Yes. His name is Keith Golden. If you were in the Baltimore or Maryland area, he is the best yoga teacher that I've ever, and actually to this, I don't think he teaches yoga anymore. Because
that's a shame. It sounds like he gives an amazing experience.
Yes. And not to assume why, but I think he stopped teaching yoga for the reasons that he was teaching what he was supposed to be teaching. But these studios, they want you to come and get these people a workout. Don't say no Sanskrit. Don't talk about the yamas or the niyamas. Don't do any of that. Come in here and work these people out. Don't even give us a 10-minute shavasana. Give us a 5-minute shavasana. That's what these studios want. And so I think he stopped teaching. He's still teaching movement, but he stopped teaching yoga because what folks want is not what he was doing.
Yeah. Or at least what folks call yoga now is not what, it really is.
Exactly. But Keith Golden, he's awesome. I hope he listens to this because he literally changed my life. And I tell him every time I see him, I'm like,
definitely gonna look him up. I'm so sorry about that experience with that one instructor, but I am so glad that you found Keith because we need more Keiths in the world because there's way too many of the other one, and especially of the fair complected that end up. I don't necessarily want to use the word bastardize, but that's the word that keeps coming to mind with her. But bastardize the practice, or at least water it down to a point where you're making it only a workout. Right. You know, taking out the essence of yoga, which is so much more than asana, and allowing for space for the yamas, the niyamas, the dharana, the dhyana, all of it. It's just, you can't take one piece and then just be like, this is what this is, and that's it. That's all it can be. No talk about where it originated from. No talk about any other things that may come from it. Because when I first started practicing, I wasn't super focused on the physical stuff. The physical stuff is what kept me interested. But my therapist recommended that I get back into it because I also had a pretty early exposure to it in like high school for gym class. But again, it was DVDs that were boring as hell. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And it was for gym class. So I associated with, okay, well, I guess we're doing this weird little workout thing, but all right. I'm 15, 16 at the time. I don't even fucking know. But when I got into it later in life and, had life happen to me where I, was going through the CPTSD stuff too, and, so many other things. And when I had that moment where my mind just said, shh, I'm like, that's never happened.
Yeah.
Whoa. I need to do this all the time because I need these moments where the mind is just because it's never a thing for me. The thoughts are just always going, and I'm like, oh, is this what it's like to be medicated? Because if that's the case, then who needs medicine? Let's just do yoga. And it's been that way ever since, and it's just I'm in that same place as Keith, I think, where I'm teaching at some studios now, and there's one place where I can really do kind of my own thing. Actually several, but there was one where I spent a majority of my time that was that's like what you described. Work these people out. Don't use Sanskrit. No chanting. This, that, blah, blah, blah. All these guidelines. And I'm like, so where's the yoga then?
Exactly.
I can't participate in this any longer if there isn't going to be any actual yoga here. And I tried to sneak it in as best as I could, but it was difficult.
It's just so disappointing. From like my training on, I've just been really disappointed. Mostly because when I tell folks, like when I was trying to look for a program, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to teach this. I was expecting to come into a training and then learn like how, like not just how to move the body, but really how to help heal people. And all of that was just removed from the training that I did.
Yeah.
And especially as like a fat instructor, people they just expect like, they just want the physical. They just want the physical. They want you to teach yoga for weight loss. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, weight loss? I'm not going to lose no weight doing this. So like, I don't know why you expect me to teach like I'm teaching a weight loss class. And it's just, maybe it's the area, but it's just so hard to find a studio that's like, teach with love, teach with gentleness, teach with respect, like honor this practice with your teaching. But no, they want quick hour-long workouts. Please don't come in here
sweaty.
Yes, let's get sweaty. Don't even talk about Shavasana. Don't ask for no options because you need to come in here and know exactly what you need to be doing. Don't ask.
Get the fullest expression of a pose.
The fullest expression of the pose. What, my body is different. My fullest expression is going to look so differently than what you perceive in your head. And it's the fat phobia is really what really blows me. And it doesn't come just from the studio owners, but some of the people who come to class. Multiple times I have gone to teach a power yoga class and someone has been like, oh, well, you know, this class is really hard. And I'm like, well, not today because I'm teaching and we're going to have a lot of options. Not today.
Yes.
Not today.
So, like, I think I said this in another surprise, I'm the instructor.
Yeah. It's
like, throw you off your game a little bit real quick.
Yeah. You see their eyes go wide and they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, this is now awkward for both of us.
Because like that thing about using yoga for weight loss was always confusing to me. Because like even in the era of my life where I was doing a lot of like Ashtanga and power yoga, like there was never any moment where I felt like there was, you know, drastic changes to my body. Like, and I've been a slim petite person my whole life, but I kind of fluctuate between, you know, a lot of different, the composition of my body. And there were never any major changes to anything. So if anything, I'd say if you want to think about yoga and your weight, it's going to be a weight maintenance kind of a thing. Loss, you're going to have to do like it. That's not what it's going to take, because first and foremost, yoga is not a workout. The movements that are required are for muscle strengthening and opening and not for fat burning. Like, and if that comes later because it's maybe shifted something about your metabolism or something. I don't know. But like that expectation is just so weird, because when I get people that are like, yeah, I come to the weight loss thing, and then I'm like, all right, so I'm going to hook you up with this awesome personal trainer, because it's not going to happen here.
No, not at
Like,
all.
that's not what I provide. I'm sorry. I'm providing you a path to healing on an internal level. And anything that happens externally, congratulations. But everything else, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not the person for you. We're gonna have to direct you to someone else or another class completely, because I don't want you to come here with this expectation and leave thinking that yoga is terrible because it didn't provide you what you wanted. It's like, well, I'm going to tell you what it is that you likely will get from this, so that your expectations can match now. Because what you thought is not true.
And I think it comes from the visual of yoga being thin, white bodies. And I think people think, oh, to achieve that thin body, I need to do handstands every day. Yeah. And that's just not what yoga is. And I try to be as body loving, radical, like body acceptance in my classes. And I talk a lot about, be grateful for what the body can do today. Because even though it's different than yesterday and last week and 10 years, it's always going to be different. You have to celebrate what you're doing today, because that's how you develop that gratitude. And when you're grateful, you're just happy to just be moving your body at all in the way that it chooses to be moved that day.
Yes.
And it's just, I know that people thinking yoga is for weight loss is a symptom and not the problem entirely, but we still are combating it, because there are these places that are like, yoga is a workout. Come here and get worked out. Come here and do handstands. Come here and do crow. Don't expect no options, and expect to be tapped at the end of class if you're not doing everything the perfect way that we expect you to do it. And it's sad, because I know so many phenomenal teachers who can't get in the door because they're not going to compromise at all on anything that they teach. And they are not going to compromise on their breath work. You're going to get 10 minutes of breath work before we start moving. On the Dharma talk. Oh, you going to hear all about this Dharma while we're moving, okay? Like, they're not going to compromise on the Sanskrit. They're not going to compromise on acknowledging where yoga comes from. And they can't get into studios. And I think that it's a powerful testament to their authenticity, and also a sad commentary on what these places have made us think yoga is. I'm teaching children's yoga right now.
Nice.
And it's the most rewarding classes that I've ever taught. Because these kids, they fucking need yoga. Like, I needed yoga. I needed yoga as a kid. Especially, and you don't know where children are, what kind of background children are coming from, but you can kind of tell when the stranger that comes to their class once a week is getting showered with them hugs and the kisses. Oh, I love you, yoga teacher, I love you. And I'm just like, I know that y'all need to be regulated. So that's what I teach. Like, and I know that people would not pay for their children to come to the class that I teach, where we're just like, let's do affirmations today. What's our mantra? Let's chant. Let's say namaste at the beginning of when we first come together as a group. Like, what do we do? Like, teaching kids breath work and teaching kids mindfulness has just fulfilled me in a way that I didn't even know was possible. Like, my inner child is like, yes, teach these kids. And it's those opportunities that bring, whenever I feel like I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough to be in these studios. It's those moments with the kids where I'm like, I'm more than enough and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And fuck all these studios that think that yoga is supposed to be great, because this is it. Like, I'm making these first yoga memories with these fucking kids, and they need it, and I need it. So it's just, I'd rather teach kids.
Yeah, man, that is so dope. I want to tap into kids yoga so bad, but I need to reconcile the issues I have with my ability to control my language.
Yeah.
And I'm very candid, and
Yeah.
with me and my candor comes words that every parent might not necessarily want their kids to hear. And I don't necessarily want, that to come back to them, like, oh, well, I heard this in, Miss Tyranny's yoga class. I was like, sorry. So I have to figure out how to, bring or approach that where I can still bring myself, but control my mouth.
I kind of put on my customer service voice with them. I'm like, okay, friend.
Yeah.
Let's go. Because I love the word fuck. And I say it in my adult classes all the time. We say ass, like, lift your ass up in the air.
Oh.
Like,
Yes.
Because that's what I thought. Like, they're words. Like, I'm going to use them, and I love using them. So
yes.
you got to turn on that customer service and just be like, oh, I can't say, bottoms. Let's all put our bottoms on the ground. Wow. Like, things like that. But it's hard. Like, I spend about 2 to 4 hours with kids teaching yoga.
Nice.
And it zaps all of my energy. Like, at my last class, I'm like, okay, just one more class, just one more smile. I'm smiling. They're all touching me. They're like, Leah. They don't know my name. Yoga teacher, can I get a hug? Yoga teacher, can we do balloon breathing today? Can we do flower breathing today? And I'm like, yes, my loves, we're going to do everything, but y'all, I don't like to be touched. I have a child at home who has to ask permission to touch me because I don't like to be touched, okay?
Oh my gosh, the babies, they want some love. That they'll just go right for it.
And they're like, "Ooh, I sense you are a good hugger, so
yes.
I'm gonna come get these hugs."
Oh my goodness!
And it's also like, as a fat teacher, I have to answer a lot of questions about my body with these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I must be the first fat person you're interacting with in your life, because the questions went from, do you have a baby in your belly? And I was like, no, my belly just looks like that, to, well, why does your belly look like that? That's a good question. My body grew like this. Like, this is how I look. And they're just like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. And then one of my kids, he was like squeezing my sides, and he said, you're so squishy. Why are you so squishy? And I was like, because I like to be soft. I like to be soft and gentle like a cat. And he goes, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay, so I'm kind of infusing like this radical body acceptance. Like, yes, this is my body. This is what it looks like. If you have questions, I like chicken nuggets. Like, this is how I was built. I don't know.
I mean,
so I feel like that's so important for kids.
It is.
Especially
it really
girls.
is.
Yeah.
And I think I've spoken to this in a previous episode, but diversifying people's experiences outside of the home is important, and even inside the home. But, taking classes from someone that looks completely nothing like you, or has lived a completely different experience than you, and having friends of that, in that same vein, it broadens your perspective on the world so much more, and makes you such a more well-rounded, accepting person, because you've blasted any expectations or preconceived notions that have been implanted into you from media or your family or any, other outside influences, you could still let those outside influences change the trajectory into something a little bit more positive and more, inclusive and more diverse. So I love that you are, being so open and honest with the kids when they ask questions, because kids need that. Like, telling them these little fabricated stories and blah, blah, blah. Like, if they're old enough to understand and formulate the question, they're old enough to understand the answer.
Yes.
So answer them.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that we talk about our body in neutral or positive terms with children, because body dislike starts at home. It starts with the little comments about how much food is on your plate and how your belly looks different. And that, I see you're really hungry. That shit starts at home. And so whatever I can do to enforce to children who I may never see again once I stop teaching these classes, that the way the body looks is neutral, and that you can just enjoy yourself looking however you want. I think that that's also just really important for me as well. And I read a study, and I might have misread this, but like body dysmorphia in girls starts around the ages 6 to 8. And that's when they start developing their first eating disorders. And so I just think that, before 6, whatever I can do to make a child look at themselves and be like, I'm wonderful. Like, my body is fine. It's a body. It does all the things that I need it to do. And that's what I need. It's just something that's really important for me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you for what it is that you do for those kids. Like, that is phenomenal. So to circle back into some things, tell me a little bit more about the experience you had with your teacher training.
Yeah. So I'm a poor, fat, queer woman in America, and I could only afford a certain level of teacher training when I went through. So I chose one that was online and within my price range. And from the first day, I was like, this is not complete. This is just get you in, grab your money, and get you out. And I specifically, because I ended up having to work with another yoga teacher just to help me straighten myself out. There was no philosophy. There was no acknowledgments of where yoga came from. They told us to read some books, but there was no discussion. Like, there was no incentive to like read and discuss and understand. They were just like, well, read these things if you feel like you need some extra help. And baby, I needed extra help. Like, because it's hard to understand the sutras if you're reading them by yourself in your room and there's no one to like talk these things out with.
Yes.
Like, I fundamentally did not understand the yoga sutras until I went out of my way to work with another yoga teacher who was specifically teaching things about like trauma-informed yoga and like what the sutras actually mean and what the yamas and what the niyamas are, and just everything. Like, my first time learning true breath work was with another yoga teacher and not in my yoga teacher training. So that being said, I have been an avid student. I'm reading all the books. I go to a lot of classes with folks who this is like their bloodline, like they know yoga, like they've been doing yoga since they were babies.
Yep.
And like not even yoga, certified, because they've been doing yoga for so long they don't feel like
their
they need
entire
to
life.
Yeah.
Like, the paper is a formality at this point. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, my yoga teacher training was incomplete. It just felt so incomplete, and it was what it was. They want your money. Come in here and watch these Zooms, and we'll give you your certificate, and you can move on. So I actually was just accepted into my 300 hour. And I'm very excited. It's a 15-month program, and we are going over everything. Yes. I mean, the curriculum is phenomenal. I was really blessed to be accepted as a scholarship recipient of this program that I would not be able to take care of. I would not be able to take it otherwise. I'm a full-time teacher, full-time entrepreneur at this point. And so, where the money goes is right to these bills, baby. So it was
Say
just
that again.
It don't go nowhere else. I'm not going nowhere fun. I don't do nothing fun. I pay my bills, and I stay blessed, and I stay blessed that I can pay my bills doing what I love. So yes, I got the scholarship, so I'm super excited to jump into this 300 hour that's just very highly acclaimed and full of teachers who are ready to teach authentic yoga and are not going to back down on what's going on. So yes, and I feel like you can only read so many books. And you can only take so many Zoom workshops, and not to take away from how incredible these Zoom workshops are, but the way that my neurodivergent brain works, I can't do it. I can't sit in an hour, 3 hours of Zoom. I'm like this. I'm like, oh baby, I can't do this. I can't.
Ooh.
Cannot tell you how many retreats and how many workshops I signed up for that I did not complete because I just can't do it. Like, my brain does not allow me to sit here and look you in the eye on this camera and expect me to retain any information.
Yeah. I just finished my 300 hour that was virtual as well, but they offered so many different ways to absorb the information. We had a manual, video, videos that were real brief, 20 minutes max, max. Some of them were maybe less, were way less. But still just so much information in there that was absorbable. Our live calls were no more than hour and a half.
Oof.
And we had it spread out throughout the week where we'd spend an hour on this. We'd have an hour on this other thing for office hours where we could, talk about this one topic for a full hour. This thing here, this thing there. And I'm just thank you for providing something that's neurodivergent friendly, because if I had to sit in a session for this many hours, so that long, I don't know if I could do it. We would have retreat weekends once a month where we would sit in some sessions that were about 3 hours long, but we'd break it up into hour-and-a-half blocks. So you do 1 hour and a half here, take a break, and then come back for the other hour and a half. This is the stuff that we need in these training programs. Make something that's accessible for all of the brains, because I'm telling you, this one way to try to do something is just not going to work. And unorganized virtual training, may as well not even bother.
Yeah, I think that some of these trainings, and while, people are doing hard work to unlearn things, I think the way that trainings are set up are still seeped in white supremacy.
Oh, big time.
And seeped in the patriarchal sit down, stare at teacher for 3 hours, absorb. That's it. I think that the trainings that are going to continue to do the best are the ones that are accessible to people, because, and not even just neurodivergent people who are parents, people who are caregivers, people who are not your average yoga teacher. We need everyone, because everyone is going to teach yoga in a way that serves their community. And fundamentally believe that every single community needs and can use yoga.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's here for. Like, we're all suffering. We all need healing. Like, we may not all be recovering from trauma. We may not all be recovering from things that are going on in our life, but we're all like, something's hurt us all. We've all been hurt. We've all been uncomfortable, and a lot of us have been stifled in that discomfort and not allowed to mourn, not allowed to feel all the feelings. Like, and yoga helps you tap back in.
Yes.
Like, that's it. Like, and it just breaks my heart that folks think that yoga is just this one thing when it's all encompassing.
Ugh.
And
it's
you can't,
so many things.
You can't nail it down to just one thing. Mm-hmm. And when you try to, sure, you're pleasing some people, but you're not giving what you could be giving.
Yes.
Like giving people peace of mind, giving people peace for the first time in their lives, helping people breathe. Like helping people breathe.
And I know that the thing that people do is like, but I breathe automatically, naturally. That's just what I do. I'm like, but have you ever sat and just been with your breath? Like, and I know it sounds kind of like, you know, woo woo and all this other stuff, but like when you just sit there and allow yourself to know I am taking an inhale, I am taking an exhale. There is air coming through my nostrils and air coming out of my nostrils or my mouth, whatever. That awareness and that connection with it. Because every time I lead through pranayama, like, all right, sit here for a second. How's your brain feel? What's going on in your body? Check in with yourself. This is what it's like to breathe with intention, to breathe consciously, to be in connection with your breath because it's in direct connection with your energy source. That's what you're feeling. That's what you're feeling. And so many miss out on that because they're like, well, I just breathe naturally. Like, yeah, I know. But are you tapped into it?
And we have taken breath so for granted that we don't even care about our breath until we have a stuffed up nose. And so we can't breathe out of our nose. And then we're like, oh, no, I can't breathe out of my nose. I wish I could do this. And then we forget about it the second that we're healed again. We're like, this is no big deal. But once you sit and you feel that breath coming in and you feel it like just expanding all the things. Then when you feel yourself exhale, I'm just like, that's a powerful, like our bodies are incredible. And we take them for granted until something is taken away from us. Yep. And I feel like the beauty of yoga is it's like, stop, appreciate, gratitude, recognize everything that is working to keep you moving, to keep you breathing, just everything that's working inside. We're extraordinary creatures, but we get so caught up in this external bullshit that we forget that the act of living is fucking amazing. And it's hard. Like, if you would have told me in 2020 that I'd be saying things like that, I would have fought you. Because I used to be like a very miserable person, just so angry. And I say that I'm the carrier of sacred rage. And I believe that because I've experienced some of the most traumatic, horrible, horrible things. And I carry that anger with me because it's sacred and it's real and it's mine. Mm-hmm. But the way that I was expressing that anger towards people around me was just miserable and just so not cool. Like it just wasn't cool the way I was treating people. And ever since yoga has come into my life, I'm like, oh, you don't have to fucking live like this? You're telling me you don't have to be miserable? That no one told me that. No one told me that you could just one day just be okay. And it's all because I took that class and for 10 minutes all I could do was focus on the breath. And then
Ugh.
you're like, oh, wow. Oh, wow, this is different. I want to experience this all the time.
That resonated so much with me when what you said about sacred rage. I think I really kind of connect with that, but in a different way where I didn't necessarily express my rage to others. It was internalized. I was terrible to myself on the inside. And it wasn't until I started realizing that I had the capability of letting that go out externally, and it made me feel worse. And I'm like, okay, I can't spiral any deeper than I already am. So how can I change this? Went to therapy, and then she's like, have you tried yoga? And I'm like, well, yeah, but not, I don't know what you mean. Why would I? Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, that stupid workout thing from high school. No, I'm not doing that. And then once I did, it was like, oh, that's what you mean. I don't have to live like this anymore. That's yoga. That's what it does. It frees you up from so much, like no matter what it is. So like even you and I, we have that rage and we both express it in very different ways. But this one practice allowed us to break free from the hold it had on us and be able to live more intentionally, with less misery, with less fear and all of this other stuff, and just be able to experience, appreciate, and enjoy life in a more full way.
Ashe, yes. For me, a lot of the rage that I had was generational. And a lot of that anger passed down from, from
before and on and on and on. Yeah.
Like my grandmother who passed in 2020, she picked cotton. Like she lived her life picking cotton. And then when she was no longer able to do that, she cleaned white people's houses. And they paid her $100 to come in every day to clean their house. And they paid her $100 for the week. Because that's all she could fathom that her labor was worth. Yeah. And that was a lot of money to her. And it never paid her bills, but she was fucking proud. Like she was like, I'm making so much money. And that spilled into me. Yeah. Just that rage that she bogged down. I truly believe that she bogged it down and then it went right into
the child and then right into the next child.
Yes. It went right into me. Yeah. And I hold it as a sense of pride because I know that she was not allowed to express her anger and her grief and her sadness. I never saw her shed a tear. I never saw her have an emotion. And I know that it's now my responsibility to express that anger in a healthy way and express that sadness. And so I don't run from my anger anymore. Because it used to scare me. I'd be like, why am I so angry? Why am I just filled with this rage? I just treat everyone around me like shit. I treat myself like shit. I hate myself. I can't look in the mirror. And then I found yoga and I can say like for the first time, and I was saying this to my therapist like a couple weeks ago, I was like, I feel like I'm so close to happiness. And all because I was able to slow down and sit back into my body and figure out why I was angry. And then handle the things that were under my control to be angry about. Yeah. And it's all because of this practice. And I wish more people understood the power of yoga. Like just the sheer raw power of this ancient thing that has been passed down and been refined. And it's near perfect, and I mean like near perfect as in I don't believe anything is perfect. Nothing is perfect. Yeah. Not criticizing, but
I'm with you though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there. And I think part of the reason that people have run from the spiritual aspect of it is because once you start breathing correctly, once you start sitting in your body, you start to realize that things in your life aren't right. You start to realize that things in your life are not sparking joy. All of these material things that you've surrounded yourself with, you're like, oh shit, this isn't making me happy either. And I think a lot of places are afraid of that power because once you realize you don't need everything, you realize you don't need 5 yoga mats for your different styles of yoga. You realize you don't need these $50 yoga pants that are not serving you. And if they can't sell things to you, what good is the business?
That's the part that I try. I'm having the hardest time with, or have always had the hardest time with, is living in a capitalistic society, wanting yoga to be my livelihood. Like it's very difficult for me to reconcile those two things because I would do this for free, but I know that I can't. Right. And it's like, how do you quantify this in a way where I'm like, all right, here's a dollar amount that I will charge you for this, but also like trying to dismantle that need for all of the yoga mats, the clothing, and the, all of these other accessories, unless they're, props to support you in your practice. Other than that, I'm like, you can still make a prop out of anything. So, the attachment to the things doesn't need to be there, but it's so hard to get past it because of how we're conditioned in this society. But and these two things don't mix. Like when you try to mix yoga with this stuff, it just doesn't, because yoga is just so damn pure. It's like, it's so pure. It doesn't ask for anything of you besides your breath, your attention, and your stillness. Like anything else is just arbitrary. Man, but it's so transformative.
I really resonate. I really resonate with what you said about struggling with like their capitalistic society. And like, I wish I had an answer, but I love talking to people about this because we have to sell ourselves for money, like in this society, to survive. So it just depends on what time that you want to sell. And I tell people I'm a full-time yoga teacher, but really no, I freelance. Like I do content creation, do websites, edit videos, do social media. My life is pretty much wrapped up in nonprofit work and doing that content creations. And that's because I don't want to charge a price for yoga that would be a living wage to me. Yeah. Because I want every single person that resonates with my version of yoga to be able to come in here and get this yoga. If it's for $3, if it's for $0, if it's an exchange, okay, I'll teach you yoga and in exchange maybe you do my hair, like maybe we just come up with a trade system. Like I would do yoga for anything. And I just have had to say, okay, I know that I cannot charge a price that would be a living wage. So I charge that sliding scale. Yep, same. And if folks still can't afford that sliding scale, let's work something out. Same. But I have to have something else that can support me while I do what is my passion. And I want to do something that fulfills me and that makes me happy still. So I'm still not rolling in the bucks over here, but I'm doing what I need to do so that I can do my passion, which is healing people and healing myself and recovering from these traumas, because traumatized people need. If I would have had yoga as a child, I really think that I would have turned out and I would not have spent so many days and years being fucking miserable. and not understanding why.
Yes.
So yeah, it's hard out here on these streets, and I know people have figured it out. And I know a lot of people are just freelancing and then doing their passion project. And I'm like, more power to us, because I don't want to I will never turn anyone away. You can have no money in your pocket and just say, my back hurts. And I'm like, I got you, fam. Let's do this 15-minute real quick. I got you. Come on, I'm going to teach you something that you can do at home. Like, let's do it. Like, what?
Exactly. The only reason I would ever say that I would turn someone away, quote unquote, is just that I'm not the right instructor for you. Other than that, we're going to figure something out. Like, we will figure something out. It's not like I would never, like, oh, you can't afford it. Nope. Sorry. Goodbye. That's so gross. Oh my God.
And that would leave a nasty taste in someone's mouth for yoga.
Yes.
They'd be like, oh, I guess I'm not good enough. I guess I can't afford yoga. Like, yes, baby, you can't. From these YouTube videos that are for free to me verbally telling you, here's 5 pose. Let me send you a 5 pose flow real quick. That'll help you get it straight. Like, no.
Like, what can you afford? That's fine. We'll work something out so that you're getting the assistance that you need and get you on the right path of where you're trying to go.
Exactly.
So, since we are nearing the end of our time together, a yoga in Black tradition is to provide some advice. So, what advice would you give to someone that is looking to start their yoga practice?
My advice to someone who is just starting their yoga practice is to take it slow. Don't start by doing an hour-long vinyasa. Don't start with a 30-minute vinyasa. Hell, don't even start with a 15-minute vinyasa. Start with 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of, if you want to find a pose that you find comfortable and you just want to sit in that pose and you want to fucking breathe, do that shit. Like, if you, like, I talk about the back all the time. If your back hurts, find something, do them forward folds. Go ahead and do them. Stretch them out. Don't overwhelm yourself with what yoga is supposed to be, because the Western society has made it up to be, it's an hour. It's an hour 15, and you're going to be working for like the hour and 15 with maybe 2 minutes of rest. Like, no.
It's not a HIIT class.
It's not a HIIT class, and it doesn't need to be. And when you're just getting started, just start slow. 1 week, do 5 minutes. Next week, do 10 minutes. And build and build and build until you've got a flow that makes the most sense for your body and for what you need.
Love that. Second part to that question. Same question, but what advice would you give to students of the practice that want to now teach it?
Do it. Just do it. We need more yoga teachers, and we need you. Like, we need your brand of teaching yoga, whatever your mission is. Not everyone wants to do trauma-informed yoga. Not everyone wants to teach children's yoga. And that's like, okay. It's whatever you bring to the table is what makes you unique. And I would also say, don't get discouraged by these studios. And don't let people talk to you any type of way at these studios either. Because you are a contractor. You are a contractor, and
you can leave whenever you want.
They need you, because who else? They're not going to get out here and teach these classes at 6 a.m., 8 a.m. No, they not. Don't let people talk to you any type of way. Like, just don't. Shut that shit down immediately.
Yes.
If people try to talk to you any type of way when you come into these studios.
I love that, because it took me a minute to gather my strength in that aspect. But now, because I've been teaching for about, this is year 8. God damn. It's been some time. But the first studio I ever taught at, it was like some things were said, and I'm just like, hold up. But I kind of let it slide. I definitely left. But the last incident that I had with a space where somebody was talking reckless, I'm like, we're nipping this in the bud right now. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Stand your ground. Stay true to you.
If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Like,
exactly.
If it feels like a microaggression, it is a microaggression.
Yes.
Like, don't think that. And what caught me up is I expected to walk into yoga spaces and expecting people that were like me, and that's not it at all. Some people are just there for the aesthetic, and that's cool. But they're the ones that talk to you the most reckless.
Yes.
The people that are there for the aesthetic, they will talk to you so reckless and tell you everything that you're doing is wrong, and be like, no, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. That is amazing advice. Thank you for providing that. I appreciate that. So, where can the people find you on the interwebs, in person, all of those things?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram under @LeahLaughed. That is my main account. You can also find me on my website, unityandhealing.org, where we will be sharing some nice yoga stuff this year. I'm working on my website. It'll be called Joy Work, because everything I do sparks joy, and I will be sharing that website once it's officially launched. And basically Instagram is the best place to come and find me. And let's get this healing, y'all.
Yes. And how about your offerings in person? Could remind me where you are again?
So I'm currently at Yoga Revelations in Columbia, Maryland. I teach a restorative class on Tuesdays, and then we're mostly just teaching kids yoga these days. Awesome. But yes, that's where you can come practice with me in person. But virtual offerings are always offered for me.
Awesome. Well, Leah, this has been a magical moment. Thank you so much for providing your time for this platform. I really, really do appreciate it. Other than that, I got nothing else to share. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to this episode. Stay tuned next week for another fabulous, fabulous instructor. Leah, once again, thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Hey there, Tierney again. I know you just finished the podcast episode and you're probably wanting to just go about your business or listen to the next one, but I have some exciting news. We're monetizing the podcast now. I know. This is so cool. This is so cool. But anyway, with that said, we are now able to take donations directly from the podcast. So if you're listening on Spotify, head to the show notes, and there is a link there that you can click to provide your support. If you are not listening on Spotify, we still got you covered. You can either go to the website or go to our link tree by way of our Instagram bio link. Your money would go towards supporting this platform in all of its ways, keeping the podcast alive, giving us the ability to offer programming in the future. And those programs will look like classes, workshops, and so much more. There's a lot planned for this platform and can't do it without your help. So if you do have it within you to help us out, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I appreciate everything that you all do for this community here. Be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Yoga in Black podcast. New episodes air every Tuesday, and next episode I'll chat with Florence Brewer. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor, and iHeartRadio, or check us out on YouTube. If you want to connect with us, head to our website, www.yogainblack.net, on Instagram @yoga.inblack, and on Facebook as Yoga in Black. See you next week.